your mounts will come with rational immunization. Beautiful fulgencies in multiplications and glories for everyone, for seeing and knowing the power of your true being. The adventurer prophets will see their lies erased out in the concepts of those harlequins disappearing. Life will become completely different from which it has been. It will arrive, at last, the disenchantment of everyone through rational immunization, reason why, since the primitive steps, I gave to this writing the title, Universe in Disenchantment. What do you give to nature? Nothing. You take everything from it. You are no more than true parasites, exploring the nature in every way to live better, whereas nature does not need the human being. You are the ones who need everything to live. You do not do anything. When you arrived, you already found everything, and from this everything found, you were transforming it, according to your conveniences, dilapidating to see if you could get a smoother way of living. You are all consumers, devastators of what you did not make, of what you do not know how it was made and much less who made it. In the assurance you are building, you say, we are the ones who rule here. You are unconscious, daring, annoying, and arrogant ones. You devastate, annihilate, and modify what is not yours, what you did not build, and when you were born, you already found it built. You think you are a lot for living unaware like that. If you have conscience, you would see soon that you are nothing. You would look for another way to understand each other and would quit being as you are. Since long, the human being was considered by the studies as the most monstrous parasite on the face of earth due to the hideous crimes he practices against the natural laws. That is why the majority of those parasites used to consider themselves like this: first myself, second myself, and third myself. Always wanting to put themselves above all others, that their perfume dominates over all and their flower be the queen of all. Man is a vague animal without destiny, who was born on this earth without knowing why and what for. A parasite like any other, but with a greater poison and greater ferocity than all others, even though inferior to all and everything. Of everything he depends on to be able to live, and he wants to put himself, with his arrogance, on a superior point. The stupidity of man is such that he claims to have been born to rule the world, but what one sees is that the confusions are always increasing and the failures multiplying within this layer that face the world as it were everything and forgets his own being, which is nothing. They, thus, live drowned by those prisms of corruptions, bringing the torment of themselves and the torment of all. Here are the reasons why the wars are constant, by all means and by all ways, and the suffering multiplying each time more, while the parasites claim that they are getting better and noticing that everything is always getting worse. Understandings are none, and that is why, once and again, everyone is misunderstanding one another. But all of that ends, all of that has ended. Rational immunization brings equilibrium to everyone for the upcoming days, which will be brilliant. Those fantasies, those unconscious clothes, will vanish naturally and everyone will come to the real conclusion by the rational way and methods done by rational immunization. Before, the parasites used to ask one another, where did you come from and where are you going to? And the other replied, I do not know where I came from or where I am going to. I know I live on this earth here as a suffering being, condemned to die, for being a miserable one who does not know why I live or why I am in this world. We are the leftover of nature, because nature does not need us to live and we need it for everything. We are less than everything, we are the leftover of the leftovers. You say further, we do not know why we are like this, and we keep on living until someday we will be able to know the beginning and the end, so that we stop living in so miserable way. Science attempts day and night toward putting an end to that condemnation, but the more you study, the more you fail, and you always keep this world and this life each time more mysterious. What one sees is that the more you study, the less you know, and that is why the durations are each time reduced. Live like that, various parasites, exchanging ideas and groping about, looking for the day when the end will come. Then, will end the pride, prose, ambition, envy and jealousness. Everything will end, of good and of evil. Death is an irremediable illness, because life is worth nothing, and for that, no one is happy with the life of this world. You are apparently happy, because there is no other way, and because you arrive to the conclusion that all parasites were born there only to explore what exists and to depend on everything that exists. Those are conceptions of ideas you exchange with one another to see if you find a solution and, at least, get to know why you are like that. You never found that solution, until now, within the writings of everyone's eternal salvation, where you are knowing the reason of everything, of everyone, where you came from, where you are going and how you are going, the reason why you are like that, everything bit by bit. Notice now, how the confusions were always huge, because you did not know how to unveil the reason for this scary enchantment, the reason for this unbearable life, which is such that you get to the point of being disgusted with yourselves, of being sad to be as you are, rotten, filthy, stinky, and smelly. Intolerant beings with everyone and with yourselves. These are the reason for the multiplication of the artifices, invented to appease and to pretend what you are not, created for you to live deeper in the illusions and suffer each time more the fantasies of distinctness and relief, which never brought fulgency, but hypocrisy. There you are all betrayed by this typhoon of ruins, where shines the suffering an entire world and everyone begging for a better life, and everything staying in hope, which is the last one to die. There it is why the living being comes to the conclusion that life is worth nothing, that life does not have any value, like everything just has apparent value, but in truth it is worthless. The illusion made everyone stupid in such a way that foolishness is seen in every corner and every side. You fight for everything in a hellish sacrilege. This is a world of marvel only by name. Where there is suffering and miseries, there are no marvels, there is appearance. Everyone fighting to pretend what they are not, and when one asks where they came from, they say they came from the deep of the illusion, and there you live lost inside this huge hole, waiting at any time, the mortal stroke, which is the failure of all clowns who live life deceived by it, gagged by this supernatural created by your ideal, which creates things as you well please to ornament this vast paradise of sludge and suffering, in hope of not suffer so much and each time suffering more. This world is a hellish circus, and that is why everyone is with one's clowning, with one's wise stupidities of the nothing. If the nothing were everything, the knowledge of all would be everything, but the nothing already says it is worth nothing, and so, the knowledge of everyone is worth nothing. The conscious one knows he is worth less than nothing, because it came from nothing and will end in nothing. This is why the conscious one lives on conjecturing, let's live as nature provides, until better thing comes along to fix us, because, this way, this world will end. And so, everyone harnessed in the world of illusions, deluded for everything in life and receiving the effects of those illusions, which are the sufferings, convincing everyone that illusion is a mistake without prestige. Everyone wants to walk straight, everyone says they live in righteousness, but once living deluded, everyone lives mistakenly, and that is the reason why the suffering is in all ways and in all forms. The deluded ones are the lost ones, and that is why they are persecuted by suffering, and as long as everyone is in illusion, everyone suffers. Where there is illusion, there is no true knowledge, but the knowledge of deceit. Knowledge that makes suffer is not knowledge. And everyone lives deluded of knowing, and for being in illusion, you suffer, seeking the true knowledge, seeking the truth of truths and finding nothing of it, but now, here, with the writing of rational immunization. The true knowledge is where everyone's true natural is, for the bases are all fundamentals, it brings equilibrium from the real rational point, whereas the knowledge imposed by this life of appearances betrays everyone, victims of pain. With the impostor knowledge, the pain always increasing and suffering too, coming to the conclusion that in the world, the reality does not exist and everything is fantasy and illusion. To humanity, life is of the slicker ones. Everything, for not finding the base of the reason and of the righteousness, even though you could not find it in fact. You only need to be deformed for your righteousness to be deformed as well, and once being deformed, it is crooked. Consequently, being imperfects, full of defects, there could not be righteousness, and that is why you are crooked, in consequence of the unbalanced base. The human being is made from the unbalanced base, and for that, he has to be unbalanced, as in fact you are. And so, everything made by the hand of the imperfect one has to be imperfect, as well. It seems perfect. Apparently you are pure and clean, but you really are mad and unbalanced. If you regulate well, the world would live straight and not crooked the way it is. As you can see, if the people were not mad, they would not fight for being equilibrated and all have the same knowledge. War, only mad ones thing, because it only brings disgraces and disgrace those who look for it, only mad ones. It is proved that the world is a hospice, and due to this, everyone thinks differently and wanting to be better than anyone else, and each one with a knack for something different, each one with a knack for a crazy thing. Where there are crazy things, there is suffering and horror. Then, there are those who consider that the world cannot be fixed anymore, claiming that only burning all of it and arising a new generation it is that the world will normalize. Man reach a point of such madness that he only cares on the fabrication of materials that destroy him faster. Madness is such that you do not realize your madness, and then, you say that the world is lost and that you need wars and destructions to straighten out this world. Due to those theories that you have, since long, been warring for straightening out the world, and it only gets each time worse, as if man were dominated by madness. Madness is so much that the monstrosities are the right and the right is the crooked. Man has the reason for being so, because if nature itself is unbalanced, how come man, who is the son of this nature, can be balanced? It is not possible. You have indeed to be mad ones with appearance of good, and for pretending to be good, you speak of righteousness, but the crooked is what prevails. You are all wrong, all crooked, of a crooked and wrong nature, of a crooked nature because it does not regulate. There are, so, those who keep saying, we are really convinced that humanity is completely mad. We are indeed unbalanced. If humanity were good, as it says to be and as it appears to be, we would live really well in the world. But it is proved that because humanity is so bad, what one sees the most is the suffering and badness. There is no goodness. The goodness probably was born dead, because if humanity were good, we would all live very well in the world, but humanity is bad, and so, everyone in the world suffers each time more. Then, someone else comes and concludes, the use for life like this is none. The weapon of the world should be consciousness, and when you see, the weapon of the world is the fire, the bullet and the cannon, so that suffers the righteous one for the sinner. Humanity transformed itself into monsters, into the ideals and caprices of monsters, proceeding from the madness, which drags the world in misery. Sick and crazy as we are miserable ones. And like that, we can only make miseries and put everyone into miseries and suffering. Pretending to be very competent, but our competence has only been enough to keep everyone suffering each time more and each time worse. Those are comments from people who keep exchanging ideas about humanity and end up saying that everything has its end. Those do not admit anything beyond their capacities, and when they face with the writing of rational immunization, they will come to a great surprise and say, finally, it arrived what was missing and in such a thing was never thought of. This is a humanity without consolation that has never found the true support that it has been seeking since long, and today, this knowledge which is rational immunization coming in everyone's hands. In rational immunization is the support and wishes of everyone complete, the happiness and salvation of you, eternally. By the existing confusions in this world done by those who do not know and are not aware of, in the beginning they interpreted in the way they well wanted, and today, they are seeing that it is completely different, because who does not see, does not know what say, and who do not know, the same way. The human knowledge only brings the weakening of the generations. The Indians, who do not have the resources of the civilized ones, even though they are the same human beings, they are stronger than the civilized ones because they limit themselves in everything, and so, they weaken less, just because they are away from the pleasures and progress that the civilized ones enjoy. I say, what a beautiful knowledge. So many things created against the living being. So much unconscious. That is why since long this progress is going backwards. Everyone weakening, everyone degenerating and waning. When there were not so many variations, the people lasted a lot longer, they were stronger, the durability of life was longer, 300 years, 400, 500, and so on. As you were progressing, you were weakening, you tend to weaken each time more until the extinction. You speak of conscience, but the true conscious one does not do or adopt anything against himself. The unconscious one, thinking he is doing well, lives apparently happy with life he lives. That is why one says that there are two individuals in one. One from the outside, and inside is another one, much different. Further on, I will prove that you are seven in only one. Rational immunization guiding everyone for a perfect regulation, it will end with all these irritations, this evil manipulation of living looking for goodness, and offering to everyone the treasure of treasures. In the world one needs to learn everything to know. Everything in life is like that, but rational immunization is not needed to learn to know. You only need to be aware of it and you will naturally become immunized, because everyone's natural is a belonging of to the rational being, reason why it was given to the human being the name of rational animal. The animals, according to their delay and attachment to all that seemed to be good to them, needed to drop the illusions of all these superstitions, foolishness, and uncertainties, to after passing to all the lapidation, to arrive, finally, to the knowledge of the true natural of everyone, through rational immunization, then going from rational animals to integrants of the rational. Once immunized, you will stop being beasts, because you know everything and can describe everything. How could the rational animals harmonize themselves in life and in the world? In no way. It is enough to be a beast for you not being able to live in peace. Immunized, you are completely different from what you were. You have equilibrium and ratiocination. You know where you came from, how you came, where you are going to, and how you are going. There are no more enigmas. There is no more enchantment. There are no more experiences, doubts, or indecisions. You are complete of the true natural. Here are the pre-announcements of rational immunization and of the true natural, the modification from rational animals to true rationals. There it is, rational immunization completing everyone with their true natural, taking everyone to his basic point, completing you with all greatness, everyone coming to the conclusion about this everything in the world and this nothing, the reason of everything and of the nothing. Everyone will be the master of one's situation, not to being able to deceive, because you will all be equal, you will all be rationals. In a little bit, the march of life of everyone will change like from water to wine. Disappearing the animal part, you will be complete of everything, you will provide a solution to everything for being immunized. Always has been talked about this drop of reason you have, however, you never reached the conclusion of true rationals, which is the reason why you lived in contradiction of what you said. You lived like animals, wild beasts, strangling one another. Where was the ratiocination? That drop of ratiocination you claim to have helped little, because you only progressed toward ruins, pertering, from there, in the world, the suffering, each time worse, in a progress which goes backwards, due to evil multiply and dominate everyone each time more. Peace, since long, no one has. And so, reckon to what point you would arrive in the world. Man, the more he evolves in knowledge, the more he suffers and thinks that the end of the world is near. However, today, you see that to lapidate the animal being, it had to be like that, you had to pass through that lapidation to be able to regain the integral natural and become immunized by the true natural of rational. Immunized by the true natural of rational, you will no longer be born there. You will no longer be exposed to that horrible suffering. You will rationally progress until the extinction of all bodies, of all makings from that deformation, all returning to where you came from. Here it is, a bit of the transformation of that deformation to the natural state, the reason of that deformation and the reason of the natural. Once outside the natural, you had to suffer as you suffer since long in the world, painfully, lamentably, in agony, tortured in a painful suffering. No one wants to be exposed there to that suffering, after being aware of the true natural. That is why I say to you that as soon as the first announcements of this work start to come out, everyone will know it overnight. Today, there are in the world great facilities of communication, through transmitting radios. By this way, in short time, everyone will be aware of the knowledge that, by this means, it was taken to the knowledge of the world. Due to the lack of the knowledge that is here exposed, it is that life in this world never went beyond this, always to worse, as to worse everyone is coming since long, because you only have that drop of ratiocination which does not give integral equilibrium, for being a too insignificant particle. So, everyone lives like beasts, always suffering in the search of betterment and everything always worse, to the point of claiming that the world will end in a great confusion, where no one understands each other, and so, living in this world where only suffer reigns is worthless. These are comments from one to the others by the several forms of interpretation. Today you are seeing the reason of all of this, being aware of and knowing why you are like that, and before being like this, what you were and the reason the world is like this, understanding the reason why everything has its end and everything in the world reaches its end. Each one interpreted the end by making future analyses of life, and today, you are seeing how the end is so different from what you thought. You know that the world is a passenger, maker of passengers, which are all its inhabitants, who are also therein passing, like all of its makings. Everyone had to come to his end, as the world, too. Nature itself is deformed, and that is why, in accordance with the progress of production and multiplication, everything goes on weakening each time more, annihilating itself, extinguishing itself, due to the degeneration produced by the weakening of the multiplications. That is the reason why the progress in the world which goes backward, because everything in multiplication, weaken, up to its ends. Everything wakens, everything degenerates, getting unbalanced, and the annihilation is general to everything, due to nature itself keep degenerating, weakening, waning, and disappearing. There are many living beings that, with their mathematical studies, claim that the end of the world is coming, like this. Others presenting several platforms, being the most different and perfect, the one which presents the progress of degeneration that reigns over all beings and over nature itself. Nature talks, but many people are seeing and do not understand it, because they do not want, or because the reach of their capacity is not enough for them to reach the psychology of what is in front of everyone's eyes. The human beings itself generates, grows until a certain point, starts to mature, and after mature, falls without being able to walk, or dies before that. Everything in the world is like that, even nature itself, which makes everything and everyone be like that until they come to their end. Everything tires, and according to the tiredness comes the weakening, the annihilation in everything and over everything in general, as in the vegetables, as well as in the animals. Everything comes to its end. 300 years ago, nature was stronger. 600 years ago, still stronger. 900 years ago, still stronger. The farther the eras are from our time, the stronger nature was, more powerful in everything than it is nowadays. The human beings lasted a lot longer, their build was of giants and Hercules, they were a rustic, peaceful, and calm people. But from those times to now, everything waned out each time more, and everything wining out due to the progress of degeneration. The son is weaker than the father, for being made by the leftovers of the father. The grandfather is stronger than his son and grandson, due to these being made by his leftovers. And the great-grandfather, the great-great-grandfather, each one stronger, and so successively. Degeneration increases each time more in the world, and with time, the annihilation would bring the extinction of the animals, as well as of the vegetables. In everything reigns the progress of degenerations, and if it were not rational immunization to save everyone, it would come the extinction of all bodies and all vegetation. Everything would go from the extinction of this generation to another formation much worse than this one. But because you are rational animals, you had to know, much before getting to that point, your true natural of rationals, which now, with this writing for the liberation of the rational beasts, it will make everyone immunized and will complete the true natural of rationals. There it is, a piece of the why you are like that, of what you were and what you will be. You will be rationals, with the learning of the knowledge of this work, in well-examined texts. In the continuation of the subject, you will find all solid bases, with all brilliant questions to brighten yourselves with your true treasure, which is the true natural of the being of all rationals. With the continuation, you will find fascinating passages, the solidified conclusions of this base for eternal salvation. To whom to ask what it is, read to know. This is a knowledge that all shall reach. This is rational immunization, which no one knows, and no one is obliged to teach what he does not know definitively. Therefore, for those who want to know, follow it and read it. If you want it or not, you will come to know all the knowledge that is herein demonstrated. If you do not want to know it today, by all means, you will have to know it later, by all means you will have to arrive to this conclusion. There is no other way, the path of everyone is this one, rational immunization. The triumph of the glories is the rational triumph. Who triumphs with rational immunization is eternally saved in everything, as it is herein perfectly clarified. The thought is vague, very vague, and it is free. That is why everyone is a free thinker and dreamer. The enchanted one's freedom. Life is a bottomless cup and without base, which you never knew how it was constituted. Some used to say that life was perhaps forged out by a misfortune, and that is why we are unfortunate, ignorant about your origin, without knowing how we were made. You know that you have life and that this life is not yours, and you lose it from one moment to the next, without expecting, and do this. It is a mysterious life. The origin is mysterious, the world is mysterious. Everything is full of mysteries, and that is why you could never arrive to the conclusion for the formation of this life. You live there mysteriously, at the mercy of the weak experiences, which never could and never will be able to unveil those mysteries, so you are able to know the construction and constitution of life, which you always kept there, in great mystery. Then, the infants keep saying, if the mistake already came from the start, we can only be wrong, and everything in the world has to be wrong too. If we are not sure about anything, starting with life itself, which is uncertain, and for that, we lose it without wanting and without expecting, how could we think we are right, if we are here in this ball rolling until disappears? Free yourselves from the bitter submission through rational immunization. The bitter submission is of the condemned to suffer and to die, who live there without having the true knowledge of themselves, for them to know how to proceed and to save themselves. Stay away from the patented illusions, which make of everyone a plaything, eluding, weakening by the power of illusions, in this hellish dilemma. Life becomes each time more tormenting, bitter, and annihilated by the proportion of illusions' drunkenness. The illusions deprave and finish off the ones in illusion, who do not have another way to follow because they do not know or are not aware of how and where to free themselves from that evil. But those who have the knowledge of rational immunization will end the material illusion and will be freeing themselves, saving themselves, and staying distant from the illusions forever. For that, it is only necessary to read every day, for being dominated by rational immunization. And so, the illusions losing the power of its dominion and the living being in balanced march, quickly becoming immunized, for defeating the illusions and not being defeated by them. Then yes, he is considered a true disenchanted one, because he is stronger than the illusions. He passed from dominated to dominator, from weaker than the illusion to stronger and above the illusions. While in illusion, you were a great sufferer, and now, immunized, you are a great benefactor. Rational immunization brings the regulation of all, brings goodness, equilibrium and eternal salvation. In the life of spiritualization, the magnetism is unseen, the focus of the obsessions dominated by the illusions, in a hellish disequilibrium, in a horrible change of moods. In rational immunization is the fertile equilibrium. Therefore, the faster you become immunized, the faster you will be well equilibrated. Consequently, do read every day, because once dominated by the knowledge you will be immunized, aware about everything and knowers of everything with precision. So, do read, the more the better. Do not stop reading, because you will forget what you have read, and after you forget, you cannot be immunized. You need to have the integral knowledge, especially of the more relevant points, of the parts with stronger vibration, about the rational base. Consequently, it does not get immunized who does not want to. But know that, if you want or not, with time everyone will be immunized. The need makes those who do not want to read, because the illusions are all that distorts the good to bad, and those who want the good, will not exchange to evil. These are highlights of recommendation, a kind of communion for those who became careless with rational immunization and have such a great wish and need to be immunized as soon as possible, to be considered eternally saved. Time must be used to get the knowledge of your own eternal salvation through rational immunization, to become immunized faster. You must stop worrying about the illusions and seek the knowledge of rational immunization, for you to have through the immunization, the solutions of the welfare, which are in the living being himself. Therefore, the immunized ones win and the ones in illusions are defeated. Who knows both ways, must follow the right one and drop the wrong one, because who follows the right one will always be well, and who follows the wrong one will always be from bad to worse, will always be a lost one and a defeated one in ruins. The right one is the immunized one, eternally saved, because he has the conviction from the consistence of rational immunization, given by the knowledge of the universal redemption. Free yourselves from the bitter submission to the glories of yourselves by seeking, as fast as possible, to become immunized. Everyone is always trying to be well and not bad. There it is, rational immunization, and with it the goodness. Who already have the knowledge from the writing of eternal salvation, must care to save oneself, as quickly as possible, through the immunization. For that solution, you only need to have the knowledge inside of your eye, especially the more important basic passages of this work. What is here is the most important knowledge that came to the world. It is rational immunization. It is not past parrots talk, which the fool ones of today still adopt to get a good place up there, a small spot, when their day comes. And so lives the world, full of foolishness, to the palliative for so much blindness exploited by the enchanted ones, adopting such an enchantment for enchanting the wild boars of the weak plebeians, fell asleep by this sacrilege domination that has always kept everyone's lives in mystery and suffering. The rational works do not fail. The rational works are firm and solid, more solid than any giant rock that can exist. What is rational does not deviate from its being in anything. The line is only one. The straight path is only one. Many people, due to not knowing what rational is, make confusions, as if there were confusions where they do not exist. What is rational is no animal play. Animal is what judges himself to be what he is not due to not having real conviction of his being, for that they are altered on the suppositions, on the philosophies, becoming revenger of themselves. But they do not even trust themselves, never mind trusting the things of other animals. Animals, human beasts, do not know what they do, always drifting with their lethal hopes, always deceiving themselves because they are unaware of themselves. I do not mind the deceit of the impostor material being, because what is rational has conviction and full certainty of his being, and what is animal does not have that conviction. That is the reason of the confusions being unlimited by the combustion of the apparent everything, which is nothing, product of that nothing that you never knew its reason, until now, in the writing of eternal salvation. The human animal is distempered, formed by deformation itself, reason why it is always staying ignorant about the true natural, adopting ridiculous things, wishing to prevail over certainty, without knowing anything of right. Now, with the evolution of the times, the world and everything is taking a different character, and those false balsams that help the people's blindness are being repudiated, because life is in full phase of positive reality. The world and the people basing themselves in positivism, basing themselves in what they see, and leaving these philosophies behind, for not trusting them anymore, and verifying that, in the world, there is nothing of true. In the world, everyone verifying that they are in a time when they cannot waste time anymore. Time is precious and it is necessary to win. The people have been lapidated and seeking a better way to live. And so, leaving the unfortunate cults with philosophy and seeing that there is nothing worth trusting in the world, just admitting what they can see. They want to see to know it from the beginning to the end, for then, see if they admit. If it useless, they do not admit it. Life becomes victorious over all points of view with rational immunization. Without rational immunization, it is as everyone is tired of seeing, the world and the people, since long time, come on disintegrating by the infinite and monstrous misery, where a bit is missing for all to become, at once, misunderstood in everything. The disagreements already come since long, and the confusions, never mind it. And so, everyone has been living, as a matter of fact, confused with themselves. Where would all of those disagreements end up if during these times of anguish rational immunization did not come? What would be of the world and of the people if it did not come, now, rational immunization? I give much reason, because the disequilibrium is incalculable, it is monstrous and made everyone become, each time more, misunderstood, for this, no one lives in peace. The days are arrived when everyone is stopping to be a hypocrite, traitors of themselves, because now it is there, the path and the knowledge for the equilibrium of everyone in the world. Everyone in possession of the treasure of treasures. The steps you are taking there are passing. Earth, that world, was not made for its inhabitants. You know very well that you are out of your true place, that you are there in that apparent place, with this life of appearances, with this life of deceit, with this life of remedies, until you cannot take it any more and die. You know perfectly well why you are out of your true places, living in a place where you cannot live, that is why you have no warranties. Nothing has warranty, nothing is eternal, everything fails because you are nothing, and from that nothing and apparent everything is formed, and you are defeated because you do not know why you are like that. You know you are as you are, but you did not know where you came from or where you are going to, how you came and how you are going, but now through rational immunization, which will free everyone from that fountain of lost ones. Due to you not knowing why you exist, the reason of the existence of everyone and the reason of the existence of that mysterious phenomenon, that enigmatic world, which has always caused mysteries and astonishment to all capacities, and impressed with nature, you keep saying that this is an infinite work, which has always kept itself there as enchanted, which is now becoming disenchanted, for all arrive to the conclusion of everything and having the knowledge of the true places of everyone. Then, the infants there keep asking, but when will this be and how will it be? We cannot know it and we go on living like this suffering, because we are condemned ones who were born over here to suffer without really knowing why we suffer and afterward condemned to die. This is a sad life, a life of suffering. We are not our own masters, after all, it is not even worth making an analysis of what we are. Those are arguments of some, that if they went deep into it they would arrive to the conclusion that they do not know anything, because into the deep world are not the solutions of the real being with the deformed ones. The disillusion brings the reality about oneself bit by bit, as it is now arriving to everyone for the end of the disequilibrium and the beginning of the equilibrium, through rational immunization. Rich steps, rich days, rich hours, happy steps, happy days, happy hours that multiply themselves in praise of everyone by rational immunization. Rational immunization is incompatible to the animal kingdom. In the animal kingdom everything goes on degenerating, because nature itself is bad and everything finally is bad. Rational immunization brings equilibrium to this unbalanced kingdom, the animal kingdom. Once becoming immune to the bad things, to the things of evil, everyone keeps lapidating oneself to the graces of graces. Rational immunization evolving and everyone arriving in their places, in their true places of rationals, pure, clean, perfect, and without defects. As you are there, you are filthy rationals, full of defects, due to you being beasts and living like beasts. The law of transformation is much known among all, due to that, everything transforms, even nature itself. For you all to understand the reason of that transformation, you need to seek the knowledge, because the knowledge is what is worth and not the begging. Who knows live well and who does not know live badly. Things are not as everyone wants and understands, but as they have to be and as everyone must to know. Who wanders cannot sustain anything in memory, it is as who do not know anything. And who do not wander know how to solve things, because they do have the true knowledge, which does not get out from his memory. The rational lever does not fail and it has never failed. It is suffice to be rational for you to have your fertile, pure, clean, and perfect equilibrium. The rational lever is the most powerful power of the entire world. Where it arrives, everything shines, everything is good, everything is rich, everything is better than the best. Since long everyone claims to unveil those secrets, those mysteries and that horrible enchantment of this world, and today, so naturally in everyone's hands, this teaching, to take to the world the knowledge that everyone was waiting for. Under the conditions you have been living, under the domination of the philosophies, there is no one to appeal to, because no one can answer the yearnings of the living beings from there on earth. If there were, the world would be marvelous, an excellence, and the ideal would be proved in all points of view. Everyone would get their ideals within the relative comfort to each one's needs in life, like that would be more than happy. All the conscious ones live completely hopeless, whereas the unconscious ones do not. But these ones do not regulate, they do not see what they are looking at and do not know what they say. They live like beasts due to the ratiocination, which is the thought being completely incubates and not developed. Then, it arrives today, rational immunization, the biggest and most powerful lever of the world, to remove all of that chaos of miseries. The unconscious ones will not know how to express themselves, they will not know how such a divine grace appeared in the world for everyone's salvation. All the mysteries, thus, will be unveiled and they're the reason of them, the reason of the world, the beginning and the end of the immaculate rational life, the reason of that animal life, of that life of ferocious beasts, which you did not know why you lived similarly to a vegetable, but very much inferior to vegetables, for depending on them to live and they do not depend on those who judge themselves superior to maintain themselves and to live. Therefore, the human being is the leftover of the leftovers of that deformed nature, that is why it depends on the leftover of all deeds to survive and maintain himself, and the deeds do not depend on anything from the human being. All of that due to the conscious faculties being diminutive and the unconsciousness being very developed, progressing in this task of fools, with the progress of destruction and of failures that astonishingly multiply. The life of the human being becomes a piece of earth, as in fact it is, and they keep discussing earth without truly knowing of whom it belongs to or of whom it belonged to. However, the rational lever arrives today to the writing of rational immunization among all, to the uprising of the forces of the forthcoming of the glory of glories, of the angelical triumph, due to everyone having in their hands the equilibrium of themselves and, thus, being eternally free of evil. There was who said that all of this was impossible, during the beginning of this knowledge. But today, for finding the real proofs, the weak memories vanish away and everyone says, let justice be made to what is needed. It is true. It is in fact proof, the return to everyone's place of origin. In the beginning I considered it a joke or a tale from an adventurer deceiving one, but today, upon deepening in the subject, I found what I never could expect. I am astonished and touched for knowing what I have needed since long, and today I have in my hands the glorifying and saving kingdom of all, which is rational. Immunization. I considered myself happy without being, and today I see that I was a great unhappy one. Now, yes, I consider myself happy because I know where I came from and where I am going to, how I came here and how I am going to, the reason of the world and the reason of all. After all, I am knowledgeable and I have all of the mysteries unveiled. I have the complete solution to this horrible enchantment, of this phenomenon, of this place of bitterness, of this ground of ambitions that always has had everyone tied to the grave, with these comings and goings, due to our seeds remaining deformed over here. Today I have the knowledge of the reason I am like this, the reason everyone is like they are, the reason everything is as it is, and from where everything originated to be as it is and as it was. So it is proved and confirmed the knowledge of where we came from and where we are going to, now in everyone's hands, through rational immunization. The greatest happiness in the world, which got rid this horrible enchantment, which unveiled these mysteries that were unshakable rocks and unsolvable. Today, everything clear, everything clean and the world breathing the rational air and not the irony of the animal kingdom, adopted by the human beings. Notice how much time of lost battles and how many already have implored in vain. So many supplications without correspondence. So much hellish miseries in a world where everything is evil, in a horrible enchantment. The world of monsters. Where there is delay, there is suffering, there is darkness, due to everyone living in darkness, suffering without knowing how to get free of that suffering. Where there is advancement, there is light and there is no suffering. Who knows does not suffer, and who does not know suffers. There are those who think they know, but suffering proves they know nothing, because if they did know, they would not suffer or make others suffer. Those who know do not suffer, because who knows solves everything of good for himself and for everyone. But the world lives with such an insignificant knowledge that suffering proves that it is a sad knowledge and worthless. There are in the world many ones proud with a weak wisdom, seeing and noticing the nullity of it and considering themselves as great wise men, but they are no more than great impostors. They are impostors because they are sufferers, maintaining a knowledge that only brings suffering to all. What does it help, then, a knowledge that only exists for people's suffering? It does not help anything, as you are tired of seeing, suffer the big and the small, the rich and the poor, those who say they know and those who say they know nothing. The world has converted by an inverted wisdom, where the backwardness is adopted as knowledge. It is so visible as the suffering in the world, so it is that you adopt the salvation of the world through the development of destruction. Very soon you will see like water boiling and cooling all of a sudden, like a hot coal, when thrown in water, it effaces. I, rational superior, make aware to everyone that in a short time everything will be normalized and peace will reign universally. Man was born in the world, but it is necessary to notice that the world does not belong to man, it does not belong to its inhabitants, and for the world not belonging to its inhabitants, they cannot resolve everything. Now you will see things line up to new paths and with character of universal betterment. It will finish the absurdity of the living being who is born there in that world not knowing that this there is not his and wanting to have complete dominion, judging everything according to his way of seeing, facing his fellow with such an indifference that he does not consider them as equal to him because he thinks that he is better in everything without being so. Here are the reasons for the inhumanities and the sad end of the world being so different from what you thought. You thought that it would be by the trances from the progress of fire and by the destruction caused by it, and at the end, it is so different, it is by the knowledge of rational immunization. And so, I, rational superior, day and night, night and day, working here in the writing of this grandiose and greater universal work. This is for you to see to which point humanity has gotten the reason for all of those ruins of this world. In this deformed world, which had its beginning and will have its end, the living beings could not be any other way, deformed, due to being product of that deformation. Once offspring of that unbalanced nature, you could not be equilibrated either. Notice the changes in weather, the changes in nature, and the changes of the sun, day now, night later, sometimes you feeling well, sometimes you feeling poorly, sometimes you are happy, always without stability due to you being offspring of that unbalanced nature. The day is happier and the night is sadder. The moon was, so, distinguished, queen of the being's fountain, due to the changes of its quarters. No one has any stability. The stability is all apparent because the living being does not know his I. If you did know, you would not live horribly in that hellish disequilibrium. But now, you have there in your hands the reason why you are like that and the reason why you do not know your origin. Now you are knowing and seeing the plant of the truth of truths in your hands, for you to be assured that you have the baton of eternal salvation to all, which is the writing of rational immunization. Many ones used to think this world is a phenomenon that cannot be judged. Life is worthless, it is a stinky flower that is exposed to all kinds of tortures, pain, suffering, and the more you run away from it, death comes and it torments us until the time it ends our illusion. Therefore, what is life worth? It is worth nothing. Apparently you go on remedying until you cannot any more, with death always close to all, moribund ones, exposed to suffering and condemned to death. Everyone knows a lot but knows nothing. You are born from nothing, without knowing why, you are formed in an everything without warranties, in an everything that was born from nothing and that will return to nothing after suffer the natural transformation. The mysteries were all incubated there, conserved the enigmas of the enchantment. Only today, through the writings of the universe and disenchantment, you arrive to the conclusion to everything and everyone with defined solutions from beginning to end, where you came from and where you are going to, how you came and how you are going to, why you live like that and why you became like that. And so, with the rational equilibrium, finding happiness, peace, and harmony. All those three things in one conjunct only, for being rationally equilibrated. The rational equilibrium is different from the things the irrational humans adopt, the humans without ratiocination, and do that they adopt as an element of prestige the spiritism, of all forms, of all kinds, and of all ways. Who adopts the spiritism lives in experiences, he is an unbalanced one, an adventurer, a speculator, experimenting to see if it works or not. Everything because they do not have ratiocination, the reason of the things, the perfection of the being and of the beings. All irrational humans are spiritualists, living under the experiences of this or that, without knowing with whom righteousness and reason lies. The irrational ones think they have the faculty of ratiocinating and make a great confusion, confusing thought to ratiocination. Ratiocination is a pure, clean, perfect thing, with true and defined equilibrium, and the thought is something completely unbalanced, variant and dirty. The irrational ones, when they are thinking on this or that, they use to say they are ratiocinating, thus, making all theses confusions without knowing the difference between the thought and the ratiocination. All animals think, all animals have thoughts, that is why they raise, remember their offspring, they know when they are about to have their offspring and make a bed, to later, seek food for them, with full knowledge of what they can and cannot feed them. The females think on the males and the males on the females. But all that thinks is an animal and has no stability. What it is rational, is clean, pure, and perfect. Humanity, for not knowing itself, judged to be what it is not, it judges to possess virtues that do not exist in it. All the beasts, the irrational animals, are free thinkers. They sing, walk, work, and produce according to their kind. To become rationals, you need the knowledge of rational immunization, because from that rises the fertile equilibrium, complete and recomplete in everything, ending all doubts and experiences. The free thinker is an unbalanced beast, which lives in experiences, and the rational is conscious, is equilibrated and possess all happiness. Where there is the rational equilibrium, there is tranquility and peace, because there they are all the virtues consonant with the way of the pattern of life by the organization of the rational domain. In this world, no one usufruct these knowledge, and that is why the restlessness reigns among all, for being free thinkers and living in the uncertainty of everything and with everything. Rational immunization is the greatest brilliant in the world, and to get it, you only need to read this work assiduously. Who wants to become immunized, do read. Who wants to have the rational equilibrium, do your part. The sun reigns in the submission of the weather, and because you are enchanted ones, you suffer afflicted, without being able to bear the variations of that weather, where are constant its changes, with brusque changes in temperature, taking the human body almost do not resist its submission. Nature revolts against its inhabitants, and that revolt goes on weakening them little by little, as any disease. Disease is caused by the confusions and the disagreements, which makes everything crooked and wrong in this world. Where there is the right and the correct, there is no confusion. In this world, apparently, everything is right, because the wrong of wrongs ones do not like to show them, to prove to them their mistakes. And so, erring each time more, always seeking to improve themselves, and those improvements always staying in the cradle. The best of the world is when everyone is rationally immunized. Then yes. While there is rudeness, disequilibrium, greed, and jealousness, everything will be crooked and from worse to worse. Then, the living beings ask, is there a remedy to solve this so anguishing and poisonous deformation? I, rational superior, reply, yes. Rational immunization. Once immunized, everyone has the complete knowledge of the reason of everything, and that is the reason why you will have within yourselves the eternal salvation. And so, rationally, always whining, always triumphing in all points of view, humbly, calmly, with obedience and persistence. So many muses without light begging for the universal caress, foreseeing such exists, but not knowing how to find it. Here it is, now, the plea of the truth of truths, which many enchanted ones look for, vanished, for never finding it. The commerce overfull with deceiving books, presenting things mysteriously in the infinity, leaving everyone confused because they cannot show the truth of truths, due that seeing that it does not exist in those philosophies where the self-suggestion shines to the addition of the illusions. They present infinity of truths, but without base, and they keep philosophizing as they can, putting everything aside due to them understanding the nullity of all those philosophies. The power of life and its solutions are not in those stories from the man-philosopher, who was born there like all others who do not know why they were born, did not see how the world was made, and do that they do not know how to define anything. They make a whole bunch of books, with infinity of descriptions according to their way of interpreting, but they do not know, they did not see, they are not aware of anything they say, for being enchanted ones, as such, true blind ones. Those who seek the books and deepen themselves in them become completely disillusioned and say, I am on the same. Everyone arrives to the conclusion that those philosophies are worthless because they do not give the beginning or the end to the truth of truths. They forged all that prattle, saying that they know everything and not knowing anything. That is why the suffering keeps growing and engulfing everyone, to show that all this flabbiness is an accumulation of roughness done by the rough ones to delude and spend time. Those with weaker minds become obsessed, and the stronger ones make their judgment and give up that world of velvet, of greatness dreamers, who try to make puppets from people with their rough philosophies. They find nothing of truth, and because people see that those rough ones are unaware of everything, people arrive to the conclusion that this is the biggest deceit that exists in the world. They drop the illusions about everything which is said reality. They look for resources within the philosophies that claim to be with the knowledge, and they do not find support. Then, they understand all the extent of the deceit. Deceit is all of which cannot provide a solution to itself, where it came from and where it is going to, the reason of the existence of the world, and the reason of everything. Deceit means, enchanted, enigmatic, mysterious, beginning with your being, of which you do not know how it originated, and ending in all things else. Deceit is the reason for all confusions, for all battles, and of all evil that exists in the world, due to being aware of nothing, knowing nothing, and being certain of nothing. In the dawn of hope, many have been living since long, full of hope, stuffed with limitless hopes, many of them becoming, due to the variations, dreams of the flowers from enchantment, of the thousands of thoughts, on the cogitations of the realizations of the dreams to soften the shackles of desires. That is everyone's life. Always with much hopes that multiply themselves because the beings are insatiable and are never happy with what they have. In the drift of those illusions, everyone lives a life of dreams, which has always kept the throne of the garden of hopes for not having the absolutely certainty about things. Who are sure, do not live dreaming or live of hope. This is the life of castles, of dreams, of desires, of ventures, which give to the living beings the courage to live, even though suffering, but always with infinity of hopes. In reality, those things are so vague that, when you fall into the reality of life, you understand that everything you valorized is a shine that is only an illusion. Then you say, illusion blinds in such a way that only after we get out of the illusion, we come to realize things. Life will only be good when lived rationally, through rational immunization knowledge. The immunization does not limit anyone's freedom, it does give an equilibrated freedom. With the immunization ceases greed, envy, pride, ambition, betrayal, and jealousness. Rational immunization will provide the human being a normal life in everything and for everything, with a complete equilibrium for the perfect equilibrium to the living being. The thought will turn into ratiocination, for being immunized, and, in that way, everyone will live on a different path from what has, since long, been in the world. Rational immunization is the greatest treasure of the human being. And so, brilliant days, brilliant hours, happy days, happy hours, brilliant steps, and happy steps, all multiplying themselves culminately.